Well, hello there. I'm Gemini. That battery can last up to 24 hours even with the always-on display turned on. It's pretty cool.
All right, here's a question for you. Can you discover a fundamental law of nature just by thinking about it? I mean, no experiments, no labs, no collecting new data. Just you, sitting in a chair, somehow figuring out a deep truth about how the entire universe works. That sounds completely impossible, right?
Well, we're going to dive right into that. Because, let's be honest, this whole idea of knowing the world without actually, looking at it, it feels like it breaks the #1 rule of science. I mean, we're all taught the same thing in school, right? Science is about observation. You come up with an idea, you test it, you get your data, and you see what's what. But what if I told you that one of the single most important discoveries in all of physics basically threw that rulebook and just threw it out the window?
And that brings us to Galileo, and what I like to call his perfect crime. He came up with a thought experiment so unbelievably clever, so powerful, that it completely shattered 2,000 years of scientific belief, and he did it all without ever leaving his room.
Now, you've probably heard the famous story, right? Galileo goes up the Leaning Tower of Pisa, he drops 2 different weights, and boom, they hit the ground at the exact same time. It's a great story. The only problem? It almost certainly never happened. And get this, even if he had done it, it wouldn't have worked out perfectly because of air resistance. See, his real moment of genius was something way, way smarter.
Okay, so for something like 2,000 years, pretty much everybody on the planet, from the smartest scholars to just regular folks, believed what Aristotle said was true. Heavy objects fall faster than light ones. A big cannonball is going to fall faster than a little musket ball. It feels right, doesn't it? It makes total common sense. Except it's completely, utterly wrong.
And Galileo didn't prove it with an experiment, he did it with a perfect logical trap. Okay, just follow me here. Step 1, let's pretend Aristotle is right. The heavy cannonball falls faster. Simple enough? Step 2, now in your mind, tie them together with a rope. What happens then? Well, step 3, common sense says the slower, lighter ball is going to act like a little parachute, right? It should slow the heavy one down. So the whole package should fall slower than the heavy cannonball by itself. But, and here's the genius part, step 4, the combined object is now heavier than the cannonball was alone. So according to Aristotle's own rule, it has to fall faster. Wait a second, it can't be both slower and faster at the same time. That's a flat-out contradiction. Aristotle's idea logically destroys itself. The only possible answer is that everything has to fall at the same speed.
And Galileo knew how solid this was. He was so incredibly confident that he actually said, and I quote, "Without experiment, I am sure that the effect will happen as I tell you, because it must happen that way." Just think about the sheer audacity of that. He's saying he doesn't need to check with the real world because the logic is just that airtight. He found a truth that had to be.
So this brings us back to that huge question. How is that even possible? How can a little story you cook up in your own head tell you something new and true about the actual physical world out there? This, right here, is where a massive philosophical debate kicks off.
Basically, it boils down to 2 big ideas. On one side, you've got the mind's eye view. This is the idea that thought experiments are like a window, that they let us peer into the abstract realm where the laws of nature live and just see them directly. Then, on the other side, you have the more skeptical mind's argument view. This one says, whoa, hold on. Thought experiments aren't magic. They're just really clever arguments that take all the stuff we already know from experience and rearrange it to show us something we missed. So in this view, Galileo didn't really discover anything new. He just showed that the old way of thinking was logically broken from the start.
So, yeah, that puzzle about where knowledge comes from, it's a deep one. But believe it or not, Galileo's falling cannonballs, that was just the warm-up. Because now we're going to take this same idea of using pure reason to understand fundamental laws and apply it to an even bigger, even weirder mystery, the nature of time itself.
Okay, get ready for a really weird fact about our universe. Almost all the fundamental laws of physics, we're talking Newton, Einstein, the whole shebang, they don't care about the direction of time at all. Think about it. If you saw a film of a planet orbiting the sun, you couldn't tell me if I was playing it forwards or backwards. The laws of gravity work perfectly both ways. It's a two-way street.
Almost all of them, because there is one law, one single fundamental rule of the universe that is an absolute one-way street.
And that, my friends, is the second law of thermodynamics. It all comes down to one crucial concept, entropy. Now, entropy is basically just a fancy word for disorder,
or messiness. And the law is brutally simple. The total amount of mess in the universe can only go up. It never goes down. It is the one unbreakable rule. Things get messier over time, period.
Here's the perfect example. You pour milk into your coffee. It swirls around and mixes in, right? It goes from an ordered state, milk here, coffee there, to a messy, uniform state. That's entropy going up. But have you ever seen the reverse? Have you ever watched your coffee just unmix itself, with the milk suddenly jumping back into a perfect little blob? Of course not. It's impossible. And that one-way process, that is the arrow of time. It's the fundamental difference between the past and the future.
Okay, so this is huge. The fact that things always get messier gives time its direction. It points toward the future. But it also opens up an incredible mystery about the past. And the answer to that mystery is literally an echo from the dawn of time.
No, really, think about this for a second. If the universe's natural tendency is to get messier and messier, then why wasn't it always a complete mess? Why didn't it just start out as a chaotic soup of maximum disorder? Where did all the order come from in the first place for it to even have something to unwind from?
And here is the absolutely mind-blowing part. The answer isn't in some deep, ongoing law of physics. It's not in the rules of the game. It's in the setup. The entire reason we have an arrow of time comes down to a single incredible fact about how the universe started. You can basically chart the entire history of everything on this one timeline of mess. About 13.8 billion years ago, at the Big Bang, the universe began in a state of absurdly, almost impossibly low entropy. It was a state of near-perfect order. And for every second since then, it's been on a relentless one-way trip from that perfect starting point towards more and more disorder. Every star that shines, every person that lives, every single thing that happens is just a small part of that massive cosmic unwinding.
The great physicist Ludwig Boltzmann basically said that the beginning of the universe had to be an unbelievably improbable state. Think about it like this. The way the universe started was like shuffling a deck of cards a trillion times and having it come out perfectly ordered, aces to kings, all suits together. It's that one fantastically unlikely starting point that gives time its arrow.
So this whole idea that time's arrow is just a leftover from the Big Bang is staggering. But it pushes us to one last and maybe the biggest mystery of them all. If our experience of time is just the universe getting messier, is time even a real fundamental thing?
And what's so wild is that this arrow isn't just about heat and disorder. We see it everywhere. There's the cosmological arrow, the fact that the universe is expanding, not shrinking. There's the psychological arrow. Why is it we can remember the past, but we can't remember the future? All these completely different arrows, and they all point in the exact same direction. That can't be a coincidence, right? It hints that they all come from the same deep source.
And all of this has led some very smart physicists to a conclusion that is, well, pretty radical. They argue that time, as a fundamental ingredient of the universe, simply doesn't exist. There is no river of time flowing from past to future. Instead, what we feel as the passage of time is just an illusion. It's something that emerges from this unstoppable increase in cosmic messiness. Which leaves us with one last, absolutely massive thought to chew on. Is it possible that our entire experience of life, that fundamental feeling of a past that's gone, a present that's here, and a future that's yet to come, is all just a long, fading echo of that one impossibly perfect moment, 13.8 billion years ago, when our universe began?